Go then, my little book, and show to all that entertain and bid thee welcome shall, what thou dost keep close shut up in thy breast to them for good, may make them choose to be pilgrims better by far than thee or me. Constancy, follow the man.
Here we sit, my sisters and I, in our cozy parlor, knitting socks for the Union soldiers and waiting for our mother to return. First there is Meg, the eldest and prettiest, and next is me, Jo, 15 years old, tall, thin, and boyish. Then shy, gentle Beth, and lastly, slender little Amy, with her head of blonde curls who, though the youngest, considers herself to be the most important of all of us. The December snow fell quietly outside, while the inside fire crackled cheerfully. Though there was a gloom that sat heavy there with us, our thoughts betrayed the cheerful season, and we longed for better times. Christmas just won't be Christmas without any presents.
I agree. It is so dreadful being poor. Don't you wish we had the money Papa lost when we were little, Joe? Dear me, how happy and good we'd be if we had no worries.
I don't think it's fair for some girls to have lots of pretty things and other girls to have nothing at all.
But we have got Father and Mother and each other, Amy.
We haven't got Father. He's away with the army and won't be back for a long time, Beth. I didn't dare say, perhaps never. But I believe we all thought it. And we sat silent for a moment, looking into the firelight. I prayed for Papa so far away, where the fighting was. And still, it was so hard for us to conceive a Christmas with such little joy to look forward to.
You know, the reason Mother proposed us not having any presents this Christmas was because it is going to be a hard winter for everyone. She thinks we shouldn't spend our money for pleasure when our men are suffering so.
We've only got $1 each. The army won't be helped much by us giving them that. I agree not to expect anything from Mother or you, but I so wanted to buy a new book for myself.
I plan to spend mine on new music.
And I shall get a nice box of Faber's drawing pencils. I so need them.
Well, Mother didn't say a thing about us giving up our money, and she wouldn't wish us to give up everything.
Look at Marmy's old slippers. I think I'll get her a new pair with my $1.
No, I shall.
I'm the oldest, therefore I should.
I am the man of the family now Papa is away, and I shall provide the slippers.
I know what we should do. Let's each of us get Marmy something for Christmas and not get anything for ourselves.
That's so like you, dear. We'll put all the things on the table and bring her in and see her open all the parcels.
And not a word to Marmy about this. It must be a splendid surprise.
Yes, Miss March.
And with that, we tidy up the parlor in anticipation of Marmy's return with a newfound happiness and sense of purpose.
Marmy?
Glad to find you so merry, my girls. How is your cold, dear Meg?
Oh, much better, Mommy.
Did anyone call today, Beth?
No one today, Marmy.
Oh, Jo, you look tired to death.
Oh, I'm all right. Fit as a fiddle.
After we've had supper, I have a treat for you.
A letter. It's a letter, isn't it, from Father?
Yes, a nice long letter. He's well and thinks he shall get through the cold season better than we feared.
Good.
He sends all sorts of loving wishes for Christmas and a special message to you girls.
Very few letters were written in those hard times that were not touching, especially those which fathers sent home. In this one, little was said of the hardships endured, the dangers faced, or the homesickness conquered. It was a cheerful, hopeful letter, full of lively descriptions of camp life, marches, and military news.
We have logs all around our simple tents now, and have built a chimney and have a fire to keep us warm. So you see, we are living in a proper wood cabin. The fire inside keeps us warm and snug and makes me think of you all at home. All our food is still cooked outside on a great fire, and we wrap up and eat our meals by the roaring flames. You girls would love it, especially you, Jo.
Only at the end did Father's heart overflow, and we could sense his longing for home.
Give them all my dear love and a kiss. Tell them I think of them by day, pray for them by night, and find my best comfort in their affection at all times. I know they will be loving children to you, do their duty faithfully, and conquer themselves so beautifully that when I come back to them, I may be fonder and prouder than ever of my little women.
I think it was so splendid of Father to go as a chaplain when he was too old to be drafted and not strong enough for a soldier.
It must be very disagreeable to sleep in a tent and eat all sorts of bad-tasting things and drink out of a tin mug.
When will Father come home, Marmee?
Not for many months, my dear. He will stay and do his work faithfully as long as he can, and we won't ask for him back a minute sooner than he can be spared. Now, let's be happy for Father's sake. You will sleep well tonight, and in the morning, check under your pillows, for there may be a little surprise for you.
I was the first to wake in the gray dawn of Christmas morning. Although there was no stocking crammed full of goodies, I slipped my hand under my pillow and drew out a little crimson-covered book. Marmee had given us each our own little copy of Pilgrim's Progress to read and learn from and treasure. Marmee stood waiting for us at the bottom of the stairs with Hannah, our loyal housekeeper who had been with us forever.
And Merry Christmas, Hannah.
Well, Merry Christmas, little Meg. I can still remember your very first one.
Hannah, this breakfast looks delicious.
Let's eat then. I'm half starved.
Now, girls, before we sit, I want to say a word. Not far from here is a poor woman with a little newborn baby who is sick. Her other children are huddled in one bed to keep from freezing, for they have no fire and they have nothing to eat.
Oh, that's awful.
The oldest just came by to tell me they were suffering hunger and cold. My girls, will you give them your breakfast as a Christmas present?
Gladly, Marmee. We'll do it.
I'll cover the buckwheat so they stay nice and warm.
I shall take the cream and the muffins.
Joe, help me pile all this bread up onto one plate.
I thought you'd do it. And when we come back, we shall have bread and milk for breakfast and make up for it at dinner time.
We piled up the plates full of food and followed Marmee out into the cold morning. Ours were the first footsteps on the crisp, fresh snow, with Hannah bringing up the rear, her strong arms full of firewood.
Merry Christmas, Mrs. Hummel.
Mein Gott, it's good the angels come to us.
We'll soon have this little place warmed up.
I have some sweet tea for you and gruel. This will make you feel better. Here.
Mein Kinder, children.
We have food for your children, but you need to eat too.
Come then, come little ones. Warm yourselves and eat.
Oh, danke.
Though our tummies rumbled, we trudged merrily back home, content that we had helped the Hummels as best we could. The little children called us angels as they sunk their mouths into the warm pancakes.
Thank you for all the sacrifices you made this morning. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you, Marmee.
Look, Meg, up at the window. It's that Lawrence boy. Merry Christmas! Yoo-hoo!
Stop it, Joe. It isn't done to be waving up at boys we don't know. Isn't that right, Marmee?
You should try and remember that you are now a young lady, Joe.
I hate to think I've got to grow up and be Miss March and wear long gowns and look prim. I long to be a boy and play boys' games.
Poor Joe. It's too bad, but can't be helped, so you must try to be content with playing brother to us girls.
He looks kind of lonely up there by himself, don't he?
Maybe he'd want to come watch our play.
Christopher Columbus, Bethy. No boys allowed.
Hurry up, you two!
We had wrapped our little parcels for Marmee with a great deal of love, and the tall vase of red roses, white chrysanthemums, and trailing vines that Amy arranged gave an elegant air to the table.
She's coming. 3 cheers for Marmee. Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray!
What's all this, then?
Surprise!
Marmee was both surprised and touched with her presents, and carefully read each of the little notes which accompanied them.
Good choice. These old things have seen better days.
Open mine now, Marmee.
Oh, cologne! How extravagant! Oh, my darlings, I love my gifts. It was so sweet of you to think of me.
It was our annual tradition to put on a play for the young girls of the neighborhood on Christmas Day. No gentlemen were admitted, so I played all the male parts to my heart's content. That Christmas night, a dozen or so girls from the neighborhood piled onto the bed to watch our performance. After the play, we were all led down to supper, where a surprise feast was waiting for us.
Ice cream! Cake! French bonbons!
Oh, and all these beautiful flowers.
There is a bouquet for each of you.
Where did it come from?
Old Mr. Lawrence sent it, Meg.
What in the world would put such a thing into his head? We don't even know him.
Hannah told one of his servants about your breakfast party. He was so impressed that he sent this feast for you to honor the day. So let us sit and eat up before the ices melt.
The plates were passed around the table with oohs and ahs of satisfaction. I know that boy Laurie put the idea into his grandfather's head. I wish we could get acquainted.
I've never had a bouquet before. How pretty it is.
I wish I could send my bunch to Father. I'm afraid he isn't having such a Merry Christmas as we are.
We all thought of Father and said a little prayer for him, wishing him a Merry Christmas, even though he was so far away from us.
Joe? Where are you?
Up here.
What are you doing? Why are you crying?
I'm reading.
Well, stop it at once and listen to this.
Mrs. Gardner would be happy to see Miss March and Miss Josephine at a little dance on New Year's Eve.
Marmee is happy for us to go. You will behave nicely, won't you? And you won't say Christopher Columbus all the time.
Don't worry about me. I'll be as prim as a dish. We felt a little timid when we first entered the grand ballroom at the Gardner's residence, for we seldom went to parties. Mrs. Gardner soon took us under her wing, made us feel welcome, and instructed her eldest daughter, Sally, to look after us. Meg felt quite at ease, but I, who didn't care much for girls or girlish gossip, stood with my back carefully against the wall. Meg was asked to dance, and no one came to talk to me, so I slipped away into an empty room, intending to peep and enjoy myself in peace.
Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know anyone was in here. I'll go.
Don't mind me. Stay if you like.
Shan't I disturb you?
Not a bit. I only came here because I don't know many people.
Me too. You live next door, don't you?
Yes.
We did have such a good time with your nice Christmas present.
Grandpa sent it.
But you put the idea into his head, didn't you?
It was a lovely thing you did. We both thought so. I'm Laurie.
Laurie Lawrence. What an odd name.
My real name is Theodore, but fellows call me Doris, so I made them say Laurie instead.
I hate my name too. So sentimental. I wish everyone would call me Jo instead of Josephine. How did you make the boys stop calling you Dora?
I thrashed them.
I don't think I'd better start thrashing anyone, so I guess I'll have to bear it.
Do you like to dance, Miss Jo?
I like it well enough if there's plenty of room and everyone is lively.
Well, there's room enough in here for you and I.
All right.
Shall I lead?
Yes, that will be fine. I like the Lawrence boy better than ever now that I've met him. He has curly black hair and big eyes that shine with fun. Mark my word, I mean to know this Lawrence boy. He looks like he would like to be known. After a week of merrymaking, everyone seemed rather out of sorts on that first morning back to real life.
Where's the use in looking nice when no one sees me but those cross midgets, and no one cares if I'm pretty or not?
Poor dear. Just wait till I make my fortune and you shall revel in carriages and ice cream and high-heeled slippers.
Girls, please, do be quiet 1 minute. I must get this letter into the post, and you drive me distracted.
Sorry, Marmee. We are a set of rascals this morning, but we will come home regular angels. Now then, Meg, off to work we go.
Goodbye, Marmee.
Goodbye, my dears.
When Father lost all his fortune trying to help out a friend, Meg and I begged to be allowed to work and help. Meg found work as a nursery governess, and I was reluctantly drafted off to our Aunt March's house daily to read to her. So Meg spends her days with 4 grumpy children. Beth stays home with her kittens and helps out about the house. Amy is sent to school, much to her disgust. And I keep the peppery old woman company. The moment Aunt March takes her nap or is busy with company, I hurry to the library and curl up in the big chair to devour poetry, romance, history, travels, and pictures, until a shrill voice would call,
Josephine!
Coming, Aunt March! Here I am.
Wherever did you get to?
You were asleep, Aunt.
I certainly was not. Now, take up the book again. Where were we up to?
My ambition is to do something quite splendid.
I can't hear you.
But in the meantime, I am stuck here winding yarn, reading Belsham's essays, or washing Aunt's hateful poodle. But all sorts of pleasant things did happen during this time, for my new friendship with Laurie flourished like grass in spring. It all started when I saw Laurie at the window.
Cooey! Come down! Come down and join me!
I can't, but thank you. I have a horrid cold. I've been shut up all week.
I'm sorry to hear that. What do you amuse yourself with?
Nothing. It's as dull as tombs up here.
Can't someone come in and see you?
I don't know anyone.
You know me.
So I do. Will you come, please?
Certainly. If Mother will let me, I'll go and ask her straight away.
And so I hurried in to ask Mother's permission to visit Laurie. She agreed, so off I went over the low hedge that separated our gardens to make my first visit to the fine house full of splendors and delights.
I often hear you calling to one another, and when I'm alone up here, I can't help looking over to your house. You always seem to be having such fun times. I beg your pardon for being so rude, but sometimes you forget to put the curtain at the window down, and when the lamps are lit, it's like looking at a picture to see the fire and you all around the table with your mother. I can't help but watching it. I haven't got a mother.
We'll never draw that curtain anymore, and I give you leave to look as much as you like. I just wish, though, instead of peeping, you'd come over and see us. Mother is so splendid, she'd do you heaps of good. We'd have such jolly times. Wouldn't your grandpa let you?
I think he would if your mother asked him. He is very kind, though he don't look it, and he lets me do what I like, pretty much.
Laurie enjoyed my tales of working for Aunt March, and all about our plays and plans, our hopes and fears for Father, and other events in our little world. I liked Laurie very much, but there was a sadness in his eyes, and I soon discovered why.
Laurie's father married an Italian lady, a musician which displeased the old man very much. They both died when Laurie was a little child.
How sad.
And then his grandfather took him home. I fancy the old man is afraid of losing him, which makes him so careful, and he keeps him in.
How silly. Mr. Lawrence should let Laurie spread his wings and have some fun. Well, I intend to bring some into his life. Mark my word.
Everyone liked Laurie, and what good times we had, to be sure. Such pleasant evenings in the old parlor, and fun little parties at the great house. Laurie enjoyed being teased by us girls, and he even grew to like me calling him Teddy, which I did as often as I could.
Good morning to you all.
Hello!
Good morning.
I wish I had a little of the money Laurie spends on his horse for myself. I'm dreadfully in debt.
In debt, Amy? What do you mean?
I owe at least 12 pickled limes, and I can't pay them.
Are limes the fashion now?
It's nothing but limes now, Joe. I've had ever so many, but I haven't returned them. And I ought, for they're debts of honor, you know.
How much will pay them off and restore your credit?
A quarter would more than do it.
Here is the money. Make it last as long as you can, for it is not a lot.
Thank you, Meg. That's so kind of you. The rumor that I had 24 delicious limes, I ate one on the way to school, circulated around my set, and the attentions of my friends became quite overwhelming. Even Jenny Snow, who had basely twitted me on my limeless state, promptly buried the hatchet and offered to furnish answers to certain appalling sums. However, I refused to give her any of my limes, and she told Mr. Davis of me.
Amy March, come here!
Mr. Davis ordered me to throw every single one of my precious limes out of the window, as the girls watched on in horror and despair.
Hold out your hand.
Then he tells me to hold out my hand.
He should be arrested immediately.
Now, Joe...
Oh, please don't make me go back, Marmee, please.
I couldn't bear it.
You can have a vacation from school, but I want you to study a little every day with Beth. I don't approve of corporal punishment, especially for girls.
I wish all the girls would leave and spoil his old school. Oh, it's perfectly maddening to think of all those lovely limes.
I am not sorry you lost them, for you broke the rules and deserved some sort of punishment for disobedience.
Do you mean you're glad I was disgraced before the whole school?
I should not have chosen that way of mending a fault, but I'm not sure that it won't do you more good than some milder method. You are getting to be altogether too conceited and important, my dear, and it is quite time you set about correcting it.
Though I took Mother's advice to heart and vowed I would not be so conceited and spoiled, a few days later I heard Joe and Meg whispering in the bedroom, and I knew they were off somewhere nice without me.
You look so nice.
And I longed for them to take me.
Girls, where are you going?
Never mind. Little girls shouldn't ask questions.
Meg, do tell me. I should think that you might let me go too.
You can't go, Amy, so don't be a baby and whine about it.
You're going somewhere with Lori. I know you are.
Yes, we are. Now stop bothering.
I know. You are going to the theater, and I shall go.
Suppose we take her. I don't believe Mother would mind.
If she goes, I shan't. You can't sit with us, for our seats are reserved. And you mustn't sit alone, so Laurie will give you his place, and that will spoil our pleasure.
Oh, now, Amy. You must understand that sometimes as the littlest you can't always do what you want. Just as we can't.
It isn't fair!
Hello? Are we ready?
There is Laurie. Now we must go.
Try not to be sad, my dear.
She's brought it on herself.
I'll make her pay. Why shouldn't I go? You'll be sorry for this too much. See if you ain't.
Fiddlesticks. At home the next day, I couldn't find my story anywhere.
Has anyone got my story?
No?
Amy,
I haven't got it, no.
that's a fib. I can tell.
It isn't. I haven't got it.
You know something about it, and you'd better tell me at once, or I will make you.
Scold as much as you like. You'll never get your silly story again.
Why not?
I burnt it.
What? All my stories?
Yes, I did. I told you I'd make you pay for being so cross, and I have.
You wicked girl!
Joe!
I never can write it again, and I'll never forgive you for as long as I live. I will never forgive you in all my life, Amy Curtis March! You are a hateful child! This is the most wicked thing you have ever done!
Amy, I felt terrible about Joe's book afterwards. If only she'd just taken me to the play.
Before bed, Marmee said that I should not let the sun go down on my anger, and that we should forgive each other, help each other, and begin again tomorrow. But it was an abominable thing, and she doesn't deserve to be forgiven. Next morning, I needed something to distract me, so I went to see Laurie to see if we may go skating.
Joe is off skating. She promised me I should go next time, for this is the last ice we shall have. Oh, but it's no use to ask such a crosspatch to take me.
Don't say that. You were very naughty. And it's hard for Jo to forgive the loss of her precious book. But I think she might do it now, if you try her at the right minute. Go after them. Don't say anything until Jo has gotten good-natured with Laurie. I'm sure she'll be friends again with all her heart.
Well, I'll try. And off I went, with my skates over my shoulder, calling out to them to stop and wait for me. But they didn't hear.
I'll skate on to the first bend and see if it's all right before we begin to race. And make sure the ice is safe.
All right, Laurie.
Keep near the shore. Isn't safe in the middle.
Joe! Joe! Wait up! It's me! Joe! Laurie, wait for me!
I'm sure she heard me, for she turned her head. But she wouldn't wait. So I followed them onto the ice and skated right to the middle, calling to them. Then I heard a loud crack beneath my skates, and the ice gave way.
Thank you. Hold on to me, Amy. That's it. Don't worry. Don't worry. We'll have you out soon enough.
We worked fast, bundled our coats onto Amy and led her home, whimpering and crying all the way.
Heavens, what has happened here? Oh, come now. Let's warm you all by the fire. Amy, come to me, my darling child. Let's get you out of these wet things. There now. It's all right. It's all right.
Mother, if she should die, it would be my fault.
Hush now. You were so sensible in covering her and getting her home quickly.
Laurie did it all.
Thank you, Laurie.
I'm just glad we saw her fall in. Couldn't have done it without you, Joe.
Later that night, I went into the bedroom to see how Amy was.
Mother, is she safe?
Quite safe, dear. She's not hurt. She's sleeping now.
Oh, Marmee, it's my dreadful temper. I try to cure it. I think I have, and then it breaks out worse than ever.
You think your temper is the worst in the world, but mine used to be just like it.
Yours? Why, you were never angry.
I've been trying to cure it for 40 years, and have only just succeeded in controlling it. I am angry nearly every day of my life, Joe, but I have learned not to show it.
How did you learn to keep still?
I had a hard time, Joe, and shed a good many bitter tears over my failures, for in spite of my efforts, I never seemed to get on. Then your father came, and I was so happy that I found it easy to be good. Your father never loses patience, never doubts or complains, but always hopes and works and waits so cheerfully. He helped and comforted me and showed me that I must try to practice all the virtues I would have my girls possess, for I am your example.
You miss him terribly, don't you?
I do, yes.
Joe, my dear sister, how could I be so wicked? If it hadn't been for Laurie, it might have been too late. Forgive me.
Being the eldest of the March sisters means I was the first one who gets to take a trip alone and experience fashionable life. Now, let me see. There's my new grey walking suit. I've got my poplin for Sunday and for the small party. Well, it looks heavy for spring, though, don't it?
It looks just fine, Meg.
I wish I was gonna have a nice time and wear all these fine things.
I wish you were all coming with me, Amy. Mother had been a little reluctant at first to let me go to Annie Moffat's coming out party, but I had begged so hard, and Sally Gardner was going and promised to take good care of me, and in the end she yielded and said a little pleasure would seem so delightful after a winter of hard work. The next day was fine, and I departed in style for a fortnight of novelty and pleasure.
We will be busily employed having a good time, Meg. We will shop, walk, ride, go to the theater and the opera.
Oh, Sally, I've never been to the opera.
Or we shall simply frolic at home in the evenings. Annie has many friends and knows how to entertain them.
The Moffats are very fashionable, and I was rather daunted at first by the splendor of the house and the elegance of its occupants. Mr. Moffat is a fat, jolly old gentleman who knows father, and Mrs. Moffat a fat, jolly old lady who seems to take a great fancy to me. Annie's oldest sisters are very fine, and Ned Moffat, their brother, is charming and witty.
Isn't this the most fun on earth?
It certainly is, Sally. It suits me exactly to eat sumptuously, drive in a fine carriage, wear my best frock every day, and do nothing but enjoy myself. I was having the time of my life, and soon I found myself imitating the manners and conversations of those about me. Putting on little airs and graces, using French phrases, crimping my hair, taking in my dresses, and talking about the fashions as best I could. But I have to confess, the more I see of Annie Moffat's pretty things, the more I envy her and long to be rich. On the evening of the first party, when all the other girls were putting on thin dresses and making themselves very fine indeed, out came my tarlatan, looking older, limper, and shabbier than ever beside Sally's crisp new one. I could see the others exchange looks over it, and my cheeks began to burn. but no one said a word about it.
Meg, allow me to do your hair.
Oh, thank you, Sally.
And I'll tie your sash.
That's kind of you, Annie.
Enter.
A maid came in and delivered a box for me. A note from Mother and fresh flowers. Dear Laurie, he had not forgotten about me.
Didn't know you had a lover. Who's it from?
The note is from Mother and the flowers from Laurie.
Oh, indeed.
I have danced to my heart's content. People have paid me compliments and everyone is so very kind. But my evening was utterly spoiled when I overheard a gossipy conversation about how it would be a grand thing for one of us March girls to marry Laurie. I didn't want to listen on, but something drew me in. I heard Mrs. Moffat saying that Mother has laid plans for us girls getting to know the Lawrence family so well. I tried to forget what I had heard, but I could not, and I was very glad when it was all over. I had a restless night and got up heavy-eyed, unhappy, and resentful towards my friends.
Good morning.
Good morning, Meg, dear. I wanted to let you know I've sent an invitation to your friend Mr. Lawrence for Thursday.
You are very kind, but I'm afraid he won't come.
Well, why not, Cherie?
He's too old.
My child, whatever do you mean? What is his age?
Nearly 70, I believe.
You sly creature. Of course, we meant the young man. It's very nice of him to send you flowers, isn't it?
Yes. He often does to all of us.
Well, let's hope that the young Lawrence comes then. We should like to know him.
What shall you wear on Thursday, Meg?
My old white one again. If I can mend it fit to be seen, it got sadly torn last night.
Why don't you send home for another?
I haven't got another.
Only that? How funny.
Not at all. Where is the use of having lots of dresses when she isn't out? There is no need of sending home, Meg, even if you had a dozen. For Annie has got a sweet blue silk laid away, which she has outgrown. Mm-hmm. And you shall wear it to please me, won't you, dear?
You are very kind, but I don't mind my old dress if you don't. It does well enough for a girl like me.
Now, Meg, do let me please myself by dressing you up in style. You'll be a regular little beauty.
I could not refuse the offer, for the desire to see myself as a little beauty made me accept and forget all my former uncomfortable feeling towards the Moffats. On the evening before the ball, the sisters set to work turning me into a fine lady. They crimped and curled my hair. They polished my neck and arms with some fragrant powder, painted my lips with coralline salve, and then laced me into a sky blue dress which was so tight I could hardly breathe and so low in the neck that I blushed at the sight of myself in the mirror.
You look beautiful, Meg.
Yeah. So nice. I'm afraid to go down, Sally. I feel so queer and stiff and half-dressed.
You don't look a bit like yourself, but you are very nice. I'm nowhere beside you. You're quite French, I assure you.
That's what I said to her.
I imagined myself to be acting the part of a fine lady, and so got on with the evening pretty well, though the tight dress gave me a side ache. I was flirting with my fan and laughing away at the feeble jokes of Ned Moffat, who was trying to be witty, when suddenly I stopped laughing, for there stood opposite me was Laurie, and I could tell he disapproved of the way I looked.
I'm glad you came, for I was afraid you wouldn't.
Joe wanted me to come. Tell her how you looked.
What shall you tell her?
I shall say I didn't know you, for you look so grown up and unlike yourself, I'm quite afraid of you.
How absurd of you. The girls dress me up for fun, and I rather like it. Wouldn't Jo stare if she saw me?
Yes, I think she would.
Don't you like me so?
No, I don't.
Why not?
I don't like the fuss and feathers.
You are the rudest boy I ever knew. Feeling very much ruffled from the comments made by a lad younger than me, I went and stood in a quiet window to cool my cheeks, for the tight dress made me feel quite short of breath.
Please forgive my rudeness and come dance with me.
I'm afraid it will be too disgraceful for you.
Not a bit of it. I'm dying to do it. Come. I'll be good. I don't like your gown, but I do think you are just splendid.
Very well. Laurie, I want you to do me a favor. Please don't tell them at home about my dress tonight. They won't understand the joke, and it will worry Mother.
Then why did you do it?
I shall tell them myself, all about it. I'll fess to Mother how silly I've been, but I'd rather do it myself, so you'll not tell, will you?
I give you my word I won't. Only what shall I say when they ask me?
Just say I look nice and was having a good time.
I'll say the first with all my heart, but how about the other? You don't look as if you were having a good time, are you?
No, not just now. Don't think I'm horrid. I only wanted a little fun, but this sort don't pay, I find, and I'm getting tired of it.
And here comes Ned Moffat. What do you think he wants?
He put his name down for 3 dances, and I suppose he's coming for them. What a bore.
There you are, Miss March.
Oh. Though I did enjoy dancing and was flattered by all the attention Ned and his friends were giving me.
More champagne, Miss March?
Why, thank you, Ned. I don't mind if I do. I danced and flirted and drank champagne. I chattered and giggled all night as the other girls did. I went to bed with the room spinning, too tired to gossip and feeling like I had been to a masquerade. Alone again, I realized I hadn't enjoyed myself half as much as I'd expected. I was sick all the next day and was glad to return home. It does seem pleasant to be quiet and not have company manners on all the time.
I should say so.
Home is a nice place, though it isn't splendid.
I'm glad to hear you say so, dear, for I was afraid home would seem dull and poor to you after your fine quarters.
Marmee, I want to fess.
What is it, dear?
And so I told of how they made me look like a fashion plate. How I drank champagne and romped and tried to flirt and was altogether abominable. And I told them of the gossip I had overheard about Mother's plans for us and Laurie.
Well, if that isn't the greatest rubbish I ever heard, why didn't you pop out and tell them so on the spot?
I couldn't. It was so embarrassing for me. And then I was so angry and ashamed.
Just wait till I see Annie Moffat and I'll show how to settle such ridiculous stuff. And won't Laurie shout when I tell him?
If you tell Laurie, I shall never forgive you. She mustn't. Must she, Mother?
No, you mustn't. Never repeat that foolish gossip and forget it as soon as you can. I am more sorry than I can express for the mischief this visit may have done you, Meg.
Don't be sorry, Marmee. I won't let it hurt me. I'll forget all the bad and remember only the good, for I did enjoy a great deal, and thank you very much for letting me go. Mother, do you have plans for us, as Mrs. Moffat said?
Yes, my dear. I have a great many. But mine differ somewhat from Mrs. Moffat's, I suspect. I want my daughters to be beautiful, accomplished, and good. To be admired, loved, and respected. My dear girls, I am ambitious for you, but not to have you make a dash in the world, to marry rich men merely because they are rich, or have splendid houses, which are not homes because love is wanting.
The Moffat girls say poor girls don't stand a chance unless they put themselves forward.
Then we'll be old maids.
Right, Joe. Better be happy old maids than unhappy wives. Or unmaidenly girls running about to find husbands.
As spring came on, the lengthening of days gave long afternoons for work and play of all sorts. We set up a postbox for correspondence between Laurie's house and ours, and we would spend our days with him gardening, walks, rows on the river, and flower hunts, all organized by mail. Beth and Amy would check the little postbox every morning for letters from the Lawrence house.
Miss March, 1 letter and 1 glove.
Why, I'm sure I left a pair over there, and here is only one.
Maybe you dropped the other in the garden.
I'm sure I didn't. Bother, I hate to have odd gloves. Never mind. I'm sure the other will be found.
What has Laurie planned for us today?
Nothing. My letter is only a translation of the German song I wanted. I guess Mr. Brooke did it, for this isn't Laurie's handwriting. Laurie organized elaborate picnics. Mr. Brooke, Laurie's grave, quietly spoken tutor, would often come with us on these day-long picnics, and he is a handsome young man, with brown eyes and a pleasant voice.
Did the German song suit, Miss March?
Oh, yes. It was very sweet, and I'm much obliged to you for translating it for me.
It was my pleasure. Would you care to learn German?
Well, I am, but I don't read very well. My father taught me, and with him being away at war, I don't get on very fast alone. I wish I liked teaching as you do.
I think you would if you had Laurie for a pupil. I shall be very sorry to lose him next year.
He is going to college, I suppose?
Yes. It's high time he went. And as soon as he is off, I shall turn soldier.
I'm glad of that. I should think every young man would want to go. Though it is hard for the mothers and sisters who stay at home.
I have neither sisters nor mother, and very few friends to care whether I live or die.
Oh, well, Laurie and his grandfather would care a great deal. And we should all be very sorry to have any harm come to you.
Thank you. That sounds pleasant.
Come play Fox and Geese, Mag, please. You too, Mr. Brooke.
I'm quite tired.
You must play. It's our last game before home. Come on, come on. Joe and Laurie won't play unless we all do.
All right.
So we were dragged off to play, and then a deciding game of croquet finished the afternoon. At sunset, the tent was struck, hampers packed, wickets pulled down, and boats loaded, and we floated down the river, singing at the tops of our voices. On the lawn where we had all gathered that morning, we said our goodbyes and goodnights, and Joe, Amy, Beth, and myself went off home through the garden, content and happy with our memories of the glorious day. The October days begin to grow chilly, and afternoons are short. I spend much of my spare time writing away in the garret. I'm writing 2 stories that I hope to get published.
There. I've done my best. If this doesn't suit, I shall have to wait till I can do better.
I leave the house quietly, so no one knows I've gone. I haven't told a soul what I'm up to, not even Teddy. I take the bus into town, to Main Street, where the newspaper offices are, tucked above the dentist and across the road from the billiard saloon, where Ned Muffet and his crew waste their hours. It takes me several attempts to pluck up enough courage to walk up the steps to the small office, but eventually I make it up there. And then I hurry out just as I had hurried in, red-faced, and bump straight into Teddy, who is lurking on the street below.
Afternoon, sir.
Christopher Columbus, Teddy. What are you doing here?
Waiting on you. You are up to some mischief, Joe March.
So are you. What were you doing, sir, up in that billiard saloon?
Begging your pardon, ma'am, it wasn't a billiard saloon, but a gymnasium, and I was taking a lesson in fencing.
I'm glad of that. I hope you never go to such places.
It's no harm, Joe. I have billiards at home. But it's no fun unless you have good players, so as I'm fond of it, I come sometimes and have a game with Ned Moffat or some of the other fellows.
I don't like Ned and his set, and wish you'd keep out of it.
Are you going to deliver lectures all the way home?
Of course not. Why?
Because if you are, I'll take the bus. But if you're not, I'd like to walk with you and tell you something very interesting.
I won't preach anymore, and I'd like to hear the news immensely.
Very well, then. But it's a secret, and if I tell you, you must tell me yours.
I haven't got a secret.
You know you have. You can't hide anything, so fess up.
Is your secret a nice one?
Yes, it is. All about people you know. And such fun. But you first. Fire away.
I've left 2 stories with a newspaper man, and he's to give his answer next week.
Hurrah for Miss March! The celebrated American authoress.
It won't come to anything, I dare say. But I couldn't rest until I had tried. What's your secret?
I may get into a scrape for telling, but I know where Meg's missing glove is.
Is that all?
It's quite enough for the present, as you'll agree when I tell you where it is.
Tell then.
In Brooke's pocket.
How do you know?
Saw it.
All this time he's had it?
Yes. Isn't that romantic?
No, it's horrid.
Don't you like it?
Of course I don't.
I thought you'd be pleased.
At the idea of anybody coming to take Meg away? No, thank you.
You'll feel better about it when somebody comes to take you away.
I'd like to see them try.
Yes, so should I.
For the whole week, the secret about the glove played heavy on my heart, and I couldn't help but be rude to Mr. Brooke every time we met. But then I had word about my stories from the editor of the newspaper, and this distracted me somewhat from the glove secret. For the time being, anyway.
Dear Joe, I am so proud of you.
Well done. That was wonderful, wonderful. Stop jabbering and I'll tell you everything. When I went to get my answer, the man said he liked them both, but he didn't pay beginners, only let them print in his paper. It was good practice, he said, and when the beginners improved, anyone would pay.
Oh,
I'm so happy.
Well done, my dear, well done.
But happiness was short-lived. For early on, in frost-bitten, bleak November, we received the telegram we were all dreading.
What does it say, Marmee? Here, let me, Marmee. Mrs. March, your husband is very ill. Come at once.
Oh, girls, help me to bear it. Be calm for a moment and let me think. We must ask Laurie if he can send a telegram saying I will come at once. The next train goes early in the morning. I'll take that. Joe, have Laurie drive you to Aunt March's to see if she can give us the money for the train. Beth, go and ask Mr. Lawrence for a couple of bottles of old wine. I'm not too proud to beg for Father. He shall have the best of everything. Amy, tell Hannah to get down the black trunk.
Yes, Mommy.
We scattered like leaves before a gust of wind, and the quiet, happy household was broken up as if the telegram had been an evil spell.
Everyone has been so kind. I don't know how we will ever repay them.
Miss March, Miss Beth.
Hello, Mr. Brooke. Mr. Brooke, how can we help you?
It's how I can help you, Miss March. I've come to offer myself as an escort to your mother. Mr. Lawrence has commissions for me in Washington, and it will give me real satisfaction to be of service to her there.
Oh, Mr. Brooke, how kind you are. Thank you so very much.
It's the least I can do, Miss March.
Mother shall be so pleased to have your company, Mr. Brooke. The short afternoon wore away. All the errands were done, and Mother and Meg were busy with some necessary needlework, while Amy and I got tea, and Hannah finished the ironing. But Joe still did not come. We began to get anxious, and a little while later in she came with a very queer expression of fun and fear, satisfaction and regret across her face.
This is my contribution towards making Father comfortable and bringing him home.
$25? My dear, where did you get it? Joe, I hope you haven't done anything rash.
No, it's mine, honestly. I earned it. I don't think you'll blame me, for I only sold what was mine.
And with that, Joe takes off her bonnet to reveal her boyish, cropped head of hair.
Joe, your hair.
You're one beauty.
Oh, my dear girl, there was no need of this.
Oh, Joe, how could you? It doesn't affect the state of the nation, so don't wail, Amy. It will be good for my vanity, and it will do my brains good to have that mop taken off.
You don't look like my Joe anymore, but I love you dearly for it. In the cold grey dawn, the lamp was lit. Everything seemed very strange when we went down, so dim and still outside, so full of light and bustle within.
Girls, I leave you to Hannah's care and Mr. Lawrence's protection.
The rattle of the approaching carriage made us listen. That was a hard minute, but we stood it well. No one cried, nor ran away, though our hearts were very heavy as we sent loving messages to our father, remembering that it might be too late to deliver them.
Goodbye, my darlings. God bless and keep us all.
Goodbye, Marmee. I love you, Father. Don't worry about it.
As the carriage rolled away, the sun came out and shined on our little group as we stood by the gate waving and smiling despite our heavy hearts. Mr. Brooke sent a bulletin every day, and as the head of the family, Meg insisted on reading the dispatches, which grew more and more cheering as the weeks passed. We had promised Mother we would all check regularly on the Hummels while she was away, but up until now, only I had kept up this task. Meg, I wish you'd go and see the Hummels. You know, Mother told us not to forget them.
I'm too tired to go this afternoon.
Well, can't you, Joe?
It's too stormy for me with my cold, and I want to finish my story.
Why didn't you go yourself?
I have been, every day. But the baby's sick, and I don't know what to do for her. Mrs. Hummel goes away to work in the lodge and takes care of her, but she gets sicker and sicker, and I think one of you or Hannah ought to go.
I will go tomorrow, I promise.
My head aches, and I'm tired. I just thought maybe one of you would go.
Amy will be in presently, and she will run down for us. So rest a little, and we'll wait for her.
So I lay down on the sofa, and Meg and Joe returned to their work, and the Hummels were forgotten. An hour passed, and Amy did not come. Meg went to her room to try on a new dress. Jo was absorbed in her story, and Hannah was sound asleep by the kitchen fire. I filled my little basket with odds and ends for the poor children, put on my hood, and stepped out into the chilly air. There now, little one. There. That's it, you rest. Mama will be back soon with the doctor, and all will be well. Oh, you're cold thing, aren't you? There, I'll warm your little feet. There. It was late when I returned home, and no one heard me come in. I crept upstairs and shut myself away in Mother's room. After half an hour, Jo found me.
Christopher Columbus! What's the matter, Bethy?
Stay there, please.
What is it?
You've had scarlet fever, haven't you?
Years ago, when Meg did. Why?
Oh, Jo. The baby's dead.
What baby?
Mrs. Hummel's. She died in my lap.
My poor dear. How dreadful for you. I ought to have gone. Come now.
It wasn't dreadful, only sad. I saw in a minute that she was sicker, and she seemed asleep, but she gave out a little cry and trembled, and I knew she was dead. I just sat and held her softly till Mrs. Hummel came with the doctor. And he said she was dead, and looked at the other two children who have sore throats.
Oh, Beth, if you should ever be sick, I never could forgive myself. What shall we do?
No, don't be frightened, Jo. I guess I shan't have it badly. I looked in Marmy's book and saw that it begins with headache and sore throat and a queer feeling like mine. So I did take some belladonna, and I feel better now.
You've been over the baby every day for more than a week. I'm with all the other children who are going to have it. So I'm afraid you're going to get it too. But I'll get Hannah. She knows all about sickness.
But don't let Amy come see me. She's never had it. And I should hate to give it to her. Can you and Meg have it over?
I don't care if I do. It serves me a right selfish pig to let you go and stay writing rubbish myself.
I rushed to get Hannah, so ashamed I had let my dear Beth go alone to care for the sick child.
Hannah, I'm worried.
There's no need to worry. Everyone gets scarlet fever, and if it's rightly treated, no one is going to die. Now then, Beth, let us take a look at you. I'll tell you what we'll do. We will have Dr. Bangs just to take a look at you, dear, and see that we start right. Then we'll send Amy to Aunt March's for a spell to keep her out of harm's way. And one of you two girls can stay at home and amuse Beth for a day or two.
I shall, because I'm the eldest.
I shall, because it's my fault she's sick. I told Mother I'd do the errands, and I haven't.
Which will you have, Beth? There ain't no need of but one.
Jo, please.
I'll go and tell Amy to get ready for Aunt March's.
There now, Bethy. You lay down on Mother's bed, and I will be your nurse. You'll be right as rain soon enough.
Amy was very reluctant to go to Aunt March's, but Teddy naturally saved the day in his own special way.
I will not go. I'd rather have the fever than go to Aunt March.
Now, Amy, please understand. You are being sent for your own
You
good.
can't make me go. You're not Mother. I want to stay here.
Heavens above, I shall go and talk to Hannah about it.
Hey, what's up, littlest one?
Beth is sick with the fever, and they're sending me to stay with Aunt March. But I shan't go.
You don't want to be sick, do you?
No, I'm sure I don't. But I dare say I shall be, for I've been with Beth all this time.
That's the very reason you ought to go away at once, so that you may escape it.
But it's dull at Aunt March's, and she's so cross.
It won't be dull with me popping in every day to tell you how Beth is and take you out gallivanting.
And will you take me out in the trotting wagon?
On my honor as a gentleman.
and come every single day.
See if I don't.
And bring me back the minute Beth is well?
The identical minute.
Well, I guess I will.
Good girl.
What a trying world this is. No sooner do we get out of one trouble than down comes another. Beth did have the fever and was much sicker than we suspected, and I grew frightened. How dark the days seem now, how sad and lonely the house, and heavy our hearts as we worked and waited while the shadow of death hovered over our once happy home. And a letter from Washington added to our trouble. Father had had a relapse and could not think of coming home for a long while. And Bethy was so very ill. The 1st of December was a wintry day indeed. Laurie haunted our house like a restless ghost. But when the doctor said Mother should be called, I was so grateful to have my dear friend near me.
Joe, what is it? Is Beth worse?
I've sent for Mother.
Joe, it's not as bad as that.
Yes, it is. She doesn't know us, Teddy. She doesn't look like my Beth. And there's nobody to help us bear it with Mother and Father both gone. And God seems so far away, I can't find him.
I'm here. Hold on to me, Joe, dear. I don't think she will die. She's so good, and we all love her so much. I don't believe God will take her away yet. Oh, poor girl, you're worn out. I hope you don't mind, Joe, but I telegraphed your mother yesterday. And Brooke answered she'd come at once. And she'll be here tonight, and everything will be all right. Aren't you glad I did it?
Oh, Teddy, I am so glad. Oh, Teddy, don't do that. You were such a dear to go and do it, in spite of Hannah, that I couldn't help flying at you. I shouldn't have.
I don't mind you flying at me a bit.
Don't tease. Tell me, what made you send the telegram?
I got fidgety, and so did Grandpa. We thought Hannah was overdoing the authority business, and your mother ought to know.
Yes, you're an angel. How shall I ever thank you?
You could fly at me again.
Now stop it. You must go home and get some rest, for you'll be up half the night. Oh, bless you, Teddy. Bless you.
All day, Meg and I hovered over Beth, watching and waiting, hoping and trusting in God and Mother. And all day the snow fell, the bitter wind raged, and the hours dragged slowly by.
If God spares Beth, I will never complain again.
If God spares Beth, I'll try to love and serve him all my life.
Night came at last, and every time the clock struck, we would look at each other with brightening eyes, for each hour brought Mother nearer. The house was still as death, and nothing but the wailing of the wind broke the deep hush till Hannah, leaning over Bethy in such a way I feared the very worst, spoke.
The fever's turned. She's sleeping natural. Her skin's damp and she breathes easy. Oh, praise begin. Oh, my goodness me.
As the winter's night began to wane, Dr. Bangs came and confirmed that Beth would pull through this time, and we were to let her sleep. Never had the sun risen so beautifully, and never had the world seemed so lovely as it did to our heavy eyes as we looked out in the early morning when our long, sad vigil was done. When Beth woke from that long healing sleep, the first thing her eyes fell upon was Marmie's face.
Mr. Brooke was so kind to stay and nurse him. But that storm on the journey home caused such delays, I wondered if I would ever make it back here before morning. And then the comfort I felt in seeing Laurie's hopeful face when I finally arrived.
Laurie was posted off to comfort Amy and tell the news. Mother rested in the big chair, and Meg and I, with a blissful sense of burdens lifted off, closed our weary eyes and lay at rest like storm-beaten boats, safe at anchor in a quiet harbor. With Mother now safely home, I felt I needed to share with her the secret of Meg's glove, so that she may put an end to the foolish affair.
Mother, I want to tell you about something.
Yes, of course, Joe, but Beth is asleep. so speak low.
Last summer, Meg left a pair of gloves over at the Lawrences, and only one was returned. We forgot all about it till Laurie told me that Mr. Brooke had it. He kept it in his waistcoat pocket, and once it fell out, and Laurie joked him about it, and Mr. Brooke owned that he liked Meg, but didn't dare say so. She was so young, and he so poor. Now, isn't that a dreadful state of things?
Do you think Meg cares for him?
Mercy me. I don't know anything about love and such nonsense. In novels, girls show it by starting and blushing, fainting away, growing thin, and acting like fools. Now, Meg doesn't do anything of the sort.
Then you fancy Meg is not interested in John?
Who?
Mr. Brooke. I call him John now. We fell into the way of doing so at the hospital, and he likes it.
Oh, dear. I know you'll take his part. He's been good to Father, and you won't send him away, but let Meg marry him if she wants to. Mean thing to go with you and help you with Pa just to wheedle you into liking him.
Oh, my dear, don't get angry about it. John went with me at Mr. Lawrence's request and was so devoted to poor Father that we couldn't help getting fond of him. He was perfectly open and honorable about Meg, for he told us he loved her, but would earn a comfortable home before he asked her to marry him. Joe, I will confide in you, and don't wish you to say anything to Meg yet. When John comes back, and I see them together, I can judge better her feelings for him.
I'm disappointed about Meg, for I'd planned to have her marry Laurie by the by and sit in the lap of luxury all her days. Wouldn't that be nice?
I'm afraid Laurie is hardly grown up enough for Meg, and altogether too much of a weathercock just now for anyone to depend upon. Don't make plans, Joe, but let time and their own hearts mate your friends.
I had had enough of hearing about Mr. Brooke's feelings for Meg and imagining how life would be without Meg about the house if he got his way. So I went across to see Laurie, hoping he would cheer me up.
I fancy taking a journey somewhere before college. Maybe I could go to Washington and see Brooke.
What fun you'd have. Oh, how I wish I could run off too.
Come on, then. Oh, why not? You go and surprise your father, and I'll stir up old Brooke. It would be a glorious joke. Let's do it, Joe.
If I was a boy, we'd run away together and have a capital time. But as I am a miserable girl, I must be proper and stop at home. Don't tempt me, Teddy. It's a crazy plan.
But that's the fun of it. I knew Meg would wet blanket the proposal, but I thought you had more spirit.
Like sunshine after storm were the peaceful weeks which followed. The invalids improved rapidly, and Father began to talk of returning home. Beth was soon able to lie on the sofa all day, amusing herself with her beloved cats. Several days of unusually mild weather fitly ushered in a splendid Christmas day.
Here's another Christmas present for the March family.
Oh, come here, my lady.
Hush! Remember Beth, girls.
Here, Joe. Come, have some air. Isn't this a great surprise?
You knew about this, didn't you?
But of course.
There never was such a Christmas dinner as we had that day. Mr. Lawrence and Teddy dined with us, and also Mr. Brooke, whom I couldn't help but glower at darkly. And as it was Christmas, Aunt March also spent the day with us. At the end of the evening, I saw Meg follow Mr. Brooke out into the hall. I longed to go and keep Meg close to me, but I stayed put.
I want to thank you, Mr. Brooke, for everything you've done for us.
It has been my pleasure, Miss March.
Well then, thank you. I shall say my goodbye and fetch Mother.
Stay a little. Are you afraid of me, Meg?
How can I be afraid when you have been so kind to Father? I only wish I could thank you for it.
Shall I tell you how you could thank me?
Please don't. I'd rather not know, Mr. Brooke.
I won't trouble you. I only want to know if you care for me a little, Meg. I love you so much, dear. I can't go to work with any heart until I learn whether I am to have any reward in the end or not.
But I'm too young.
Bless me, what's all this?
We were merely talking, Aunt. Mr. Brooke is leaving.
Glad to hear it.
Yes. I'll just collect my hat. Excuse me.
Now you listen here, Meg. Do you mean to marry this cook?
Hush, Aunt, he'll hear. And it's Brooke.
I care not. If you do marry him, not 1 penny of my money ever goes to you. Remember that and be a sensible girl.
I shall marry whom I please, Aunt. And you can leave your money to anyone you like.
Is that the way you take my advice? Well, you'll be sorry for it by and by when you have tried love in a cottage and found it a failure.
It can't be a worse one than people find in big houses.
Now, Meg, my dear, be reasonable and take my advice. I mean it kindly, and I don't want you to spoil your whole life by making a mistake at the beginning. You ought to marry well and help your family.
Father and Mother don't think so. They like John, even though he is poor.
Your pa and ma, my dear, have no more worldly wisdom than 2 babies.
I'm glad of it.
This Rook is poor, and he hasn't got any rich relations, has he?
Brooke, he has many warm friends.
You can't live on friends. Try it and see how cool they'll grow. Brooke knows you have rich relations, child. That is the secret of his liking, I suspect.
Aunt, how dare you say such a thing? John is above such meanness, and I won't listen to you another minute if you talk so. My John wouldn't marry for money any more than I would. We are willing to work, and we mean to wait.
Well, I wash my hands of the whole affair. You are a willful child, and you have lost more than you know by this piece of folly. I'm disappointed in you, Meg. Don't expect anything from me when you're married. Your Mr. Brooke's friends must take care of you, for I am done with you, forever.
I couldn't help hearing, Meg. Thank you for defending me and proving that you do care for me a little bit.
I didn't know how much till she abused you.
And I needn't go away, but may stay and be happy. May I, dear?
Yes, John. I'd like that.
And in that moment, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Father and Mother accepted John with open arms and were pleased that we were happy to wait until I was old enough to be married. Everyone seemed happy for us, except Joe, who glared at John suspiciously.
I don't approve of the match. You can't know how hard it is for me to give up Meg.
You don't have to give her up. You only go halves.
It never can be the same again. I've lost my dearest friend.
You've got me anyhow. I'm not good for much, I know. But I'll stand by you, Joe, all the days of my life. Upon my word, I will.
Thank you, Teddy. You've always been a great comfort to me.
Well, now, don't be dismal. There's a good fellow. It'll be all right. You'll see.
My eyes went slowly around the room. Father and Mother sat quietly together, and Amy was drawing at their feet. Beth lay on her sofa, and Joe lounged in her favorite low seat with Laurie leaning on the back of the chair with his chin level with her hair, smiling and nodding at her reflection in the long glass. And I sat with my John, in our own little world. I am so happy, but I know Joe is not, and I can see in those eyes of hers she is not happy that I have found love. Only time will tell if I can bring her round, or if she allows anyone to crack the hard shell she keeps around her dear, soft heart.